What's up, YouTube? George's Silver Hunter back, and today we're going through a Frankenstein box of quarters. Now, you may wonder, what is a Frankenstein box? Well, it's when you go into the bank and you say, can I get a box of quarters? And they say yes, and then they start pulling stuff out of the safe, and you don't know what you're going to get. We got taped rolls, we got some, looks like dollar store rolls, we've got some more current rolls, we've got, what is this? Just it says quarters. We have some Loomis wrapped. We got a little bit of everything. These quarters came from all over the place. So this is definitely a Frankenstein. We have no idea what we're going to get when we get into these rolls, but I'm excited to get in there. Hopefully going to find some W's. If we get really lucky, some silver. And of course, we're always on the hunt for interesting errors and varieties. So let's get into this box. Okay, so we have our handy dandy scope set up. We've got our first roll of quarters. Let's break into this thing and maybe go through this first roll together just to see if we get lucky and find anything interesting. So first check is the edges, and I do see a lot of shiny, so we're probably looking at a lot of 21s and 22s. What we really want to see, though, is a lot of 2019s and 2020s because we want a lot of opportunity at the West Point quarters, because those carry kind of the most value of everything you're going to find in here today for the most part. We've got some Drooling Georges there. Any of the 2022s, we want to check for the Drooling George, which is basically a die chip on the corner of the mouth. So we've actually already got a Sally Ride. We've got a, what is that, a Maya Angelou. There is a DDR on this one. It's just really hard to find, so I've kind of stopped looking for it. Let me get these situated. That has a ton of DDRs, but that coin's in such bad shape that I'm not even going to look. There's another Sally Ride. We check all of our Washingtons for the big die chip at the top of the hat. If I can't see it without a scope, I don't look for it, because I have a couple of rolls of them already. This one, there's an extra corn stalk, a little corn husk error that's not present. So that's one you can actually see with the naked eye. It's an 83. We want to look for the Spitting Eagle. It wasn't there. That Spitting Eagle is just a die crack coming out of the mouth of the... we'll check that under the scope for the In God We Rust error. This is the Kansas. The T or the G or the I will basically be worn away or misformed. See, we got another Sally Ride. Another Sally Ride. I'm getting a lot of the new Sally Ride quarters. This Minnesota has an extra tree. It's actually a die chip that ends up being between these trees. It looks like an extra tree, so that's one you guys can look for. All right, well, so far, I'm going to put all these under the scope. I'll bring you in if we find anything. But that first roll didn't have anything obvious. On roll number 5, and I did like on roll 2 or 3, I did get a snow on the roof. This is one of the Nebraska errors. I'll put that under the scope at some point when I do take you over there. I'm sure we'll find something. It's not a very good example, though, so I'm not making a big deal out of it. But roll 5, we did find something interesting, and it's not something you see very often. This is a 1992 San Francisco clad proof quarter. I don't think I've found one of the older year clad proofs in a long time. I've found business strikes of the newer quarters, and I've found a couple of proofs in the newer quarters, but never anything old. Sorry, I'm playing with my zoom here to try to get this thing so it looks the prettiest for you, but it's a really pretty coin. For 1992 anyway. So we're on roll 12, and I just got this out. It was one of the customer wrapped rolls, and I just want to show you guys. We've got something real silvery, and I need this to focus. Let's turn it this way. We've got something really silvery right here, but the reading on it makes me think that it's not going to be silver. I have a feeling it's going to be Canadian. Let's check it out. It is Canadian. Was that a 2006? 2006 Canadian quarter. It's got a really nice finish on it. We're on roll 22, and I'll be honest, I was starting to lose faith because so far we've found just a handful of bicentennials, and we had that one San Francisco and that one foreign, and other than that, it's been really, really dry. But getting in here through roll 22, we have a little surprise, and it is a 2020 W. Now, I know that because we have the V75 Privy over here. We have our W for West Point Mint, and it is a Salt River Bay 2020, and actually really, really good shape. And I know there's a lot of you, or at least in the past, I've had videos of me putting too many fingers on the coins and fingerprints, and guys, these are circulated coins. I'm not doing any more damage than was already there. But I always get excited when I see W's because they do carry quite a bit of value on eBay, even with my fingerprints. We're on roll 27, and we're about halfway through the roll. I have found something interesting finally, so we'll look at a couple of things under the scope here, but this George Washington I usually get to show off in nearly every video because I always find some interesting die chips, and this is the first one like this I've ever found, and it's a huge die chip on the front of the hat, and it is enormous. I usually find them in the back part of the hat, and they kind of go up to the E. And on my last quarter video, I found a huge die chip that covered probably half the hat, but it did not get up to the front. So this is definitely something new for me. Pretty excited to find it. While I have you, I have two of the Nebraska quarters, Nebraska quarters. Both this one has a little bit of snow on the roof and snow on the window. You can see the die chips. Let me see if I can move my mouse here. Where is it? Right here we've got some die chips, and right here we have a die chip over the window. Don't know the value on that because they're pretty small, and honestly I haven't seen a lot of those for sale, but that is one, and this is the first one that I found, and again, really small die chip right up here on the house, right there. That little piece of metal is not supposed to be there. So not exciting finds, but finds nonetheless. We're on roll 35, and we have our next find of the hunt. We have a San Francisco, looks to be like a business strike. It does not look like it's got the mirror finish of a proof like our 1992, but we have a Bombay hook. Looks like a Delaware. 2015 San Francisco. We'll put it up with our proof. We're on roll 44, about, 2/3 of the way through, and we have our next find. These are starting to become really common in this hunt, more than I normally find anyway. We have another San Francisco business strike. You see that by the little S there? And it is a Cumberland Island from Georgia. Look at that. It's in my home state, 2018. San Francisco clad business strike. This is the same roll. I was actually 3 coins from the end, and I found a 2021 Airman that I've got under the scope, and it's a die chip on the airplane. I've never seen it quite like this before, but there is, for the Airman, a die chip that can show up on either airplane, as well as up here on the visor of the pilot. But you can see that weird little funky piece of metal sitting right over the cockpit. That is a die chip, but it's not supposed to be there. So we've reached the end of the box, and before I get into the full wrap up here, I do want to get under the scope just to show off all the various die chips we have, and then we'll wrap everything up. Okay, so we'll cover these just very briefly as we go through the wrap up, but we've already looked through at these snow on the roof quarters. These are the Homestead errors that I did find from, I always forget the year, 2015. It's the Nebraska quarter, but this one does have a little die chip here right on the roof. It's not a great example, and the quarter's in pretty bad shape, so I don't think there's a lot of value there. I may actually toss it back. Here is a second one that has a couple of floating chips up here. These are die chips. They would still qualify as snow on the roof. But the main reason I pulled this quarter is that we have some snow on the window, which is actually pretty unique. I've only found a few quarters where we've got this die chip up on the upper window. Let's see here. I did pull a couple of the Drooling Georges. Let's see if I can get a good picture of that. This is probably the one with the largest die chip on it. The reason it's called the Drooling George is it is right here in the corner of his mouth. So it looks like he's drooling. And this one was one of the Sally Ride quarters, so you can see the ride right there. Let's see, the second one I'm going to show you is also a Sally Ride. And this is the more traditional. I find lots and lots of these where it's just a small die chip running down the side of the mouth. And this one's probably a better accentuation of why it's called the Drooling George. I prefer to keep the ones with the larger die chips because they typically bring in a little bit more money. Now this is a Maya Angelou. The error falls in the exact same place, and you can see I've got some damage on this coin, so I may not hang on to it. But again, another large die chip right here in the corner of the mouth. Just because I love it. There's our W. The last two I want to point out are my Airman, which I showed you before, but I've got this now as a screen record, so it should look a little bit better. But this die chip right here should not be there. Sometimes it shows up on the cockpit up here, or down here, or up here in the goggles. But this is a little die chip on the 2021 Airman. And the last one I showed off very early in the video. This is a huge die chip on the crown of our good friend George here crossing the Delaware. This quarter could be worth, $10, maybe $15, possibly a little bit more. So I'm excited about this quarter, and it's actually in really good shape. So let's get back to the final wrap-up. So here is everything. We did end up with 5 Denver Bicentennials. They were all checked for the DDO. We did have 4 of the Philadelphia Bicentennials. I hang on to those, put them in rolls, and occasionally sell them on eBay. We did have 1 Canadian. It fooled us. The edge is very silvery looking because the composition of Canadian nickels is very different than U.S. quarter or Canadian quarters. Very different than U.S. quarters, so they read very much like silver from the edge, and they fool coin roll hunters all the time, myself included. We went through a lot of the die chips. Very excited to find one of the newer 2022 quarters. First one I've ever found. The W, always a big find. This one, the Salt River Bay, is probably the $10 to $15 quarter. I'll throw a comp up on the screen if it's different than that. But on eBay, these are typically, I want to say, $10 to $15. Kind of cool to get a proof. It's been a long time since I've actually found a proof San Francisco clad. A lot of times I find the business strike San Francisco clads. So we had 3 of those. I forget the states. One was the Georgia, and one was, where was it? I got to zoom in. I can't read it. Delaware. That's where it was. And then last but not least, we showed off the 2 die chips on the 2021 errors. All in all, it was a good hunt. This went by a lot faster because there's a couple of quarters I'm not really hunting for errors anymore, like the 6th Claw Alaska. I didn't get many of the Arizona quarters to check, and this is one of my first hunts in a while where I didn't find the extra cactus error. And like I said, I skipped a lot of the Drooling Georges. I found a lot of examples, but not many of them were great, so I just tossed them. All in all, anytime you do a box and you find a W, it is a win, so I will take that any day of the week. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you like my quarter hunts. I've been doing a lot more of them because to me, they're almost more fun than half dollars because there's just a lot more to look for and a lot more quarters that have some value behind them. But it just doesn't beat getting those epic boxes of silver when you do find them. So anyway, if you enjoyed this video, let me know by dropping down below, clicking on that like button, leave me a comment, let me know. If you're new to the channel and you like coin roll hunts, I do a lot of them. Make sure you click on that subscribe button so you don't miss any videos that I release in the future. While you're there, click on that little bell and select all as well, and you'll get notified every time I release a new video. I've got a video I'm finishing on some half dollars. I got my first Loomis box of halves in a while, and I'm going to be going through that here shortly. So a lot going on here, lots of coin roll hunts, so stay tuned, a lot more coming. You guys take care, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.